Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Teach Them Diligently podcast. I am your host, Leslie Nunnery, and I'm really excited to be here today. I'm so grateful that you're joining me. But I've taken a little bit of a break from the podcast, and I'm just super excited to be back talking to you again. I'm excited that it's the start of a brand new homeschool year for my family. This is our last one. Which is hard to believe, but my baby is a senior. So this is a big deal. So today I'm going to start probably what will be a 2, maybe 3 week series on just going back to homeschool missionally, well prepared, confidently, all of the things that we want to do. So that's where we're going today. I'm not exactly sure how far we're going to get in it. That's why I said 2 or 3 weeks. But I want to give you some really great information to help you either start for the first time or go back to homeschool in a way that is going to be really missional and exciting and fun for everybody. And there are a few things that you can do that will really, really help that get going in a very, very good way. So that's where we're going today. Before we dive in, though, I like to tell you from time to time about organizations that we work with that I think it's important that your family knows about. And today I want to tell you about one that I have actually worked with people who have come through their program. I worked with them, a group of them in Poland, serving at a camp. And then additionally, I worked with one of their alumni who has been serving as a teacher at our school in Poland for the last year and has just been incredible. And that is Word of Life. It is a program that I really think that all of us, or everyone out there who has kids who are getting up close to college age, need to really look strongly at, because Word of Life will give your kids a really great foundation for their faith, will give them a lot of opportunities to put that faith in action. And it's just a really great, a great resource for your family. So if you are ready to experience your faith, or your kids are, Word of Life creates faith-defining experiences that give students and families alike the opportunity to encounter God and grow in their spiritual walk. Through camps, the Bible Institute, youth ministries, international ministries, Word of Life is a catalyst for lasting life change and eternal impact. Visit www.wol.org to learn more. Again, that address is www.wol.org. You can learn more. But again, speaking from someone who has worked with their alumni and their current students, it's just a really impressive group. I think that your son or daughter would actually grow a lot if they went there. So I encourage you to check it out, see if that's right for your family. Word of Life, wol.org. You can get all the information. They have a lot of really cool stuff going on. So just wanted to tell you about that before we dove in to talking today about getting ready for this upcoming homeschool year. I know a lot of you have already started. Lila and I have started a little bit. Co-op for her starts this week. Actually, when this runs, it will have started the day before. But then she's doing a bunch of dual credits. Those don't start for another week or two. So we are getting a rolling start. I'm only teaching her a couple of classes at home this year. I've kind of worked myself out of a job, which is a cool place to be, honestly, where she is now driving the ship on her education, which is what we all kind of are working towards, right? We want them to be learners that are self-driven and are actually following passions and pursuits that God has put in their heart. And so that is where we find ourselves. But for today, I just want to talk to you for just a little bit about how to get this year started missionally and well, and just some things that I've learned. I've homeschooled for a really long time. I graduated 3 already, again, in the senior year of my 4th. So I just wanted to share some stuff. The first thing that I want to make sure that you do, and this is something that we overlook so often, and it is dangerous to do so. I want you to stop, preferably with your spouse. That's the best way to do it. But I want you to stop and really reflect on the year that you've just been through. Take the time to evaluate what was good and what was bad. So often we have this sense that, we did something great or we did something terrible, but we never stop to actually put pen to paper on what that is. And so it's all kind of squishy and we're never able to actually grow with it, like enhance what we're doing that is good, or grow through it or from it, meaning we turn away from what we were doing that wasn't good. So take the time to reflect on the year that has been. What worked well? What did you do last year that was really, really great? What didn't? What do you need to do to kind of overcome some of those things that didn't go well? Did they not go well because you were overbooked? Did they not go well because they weren't missional things? Did they not go well because you just didn't execute them well? Those are very different reasons, because if it was just it didn't go well because you didn't execute it well, how can you execute it better? If this is a good thing that you want to do, how can you do it better? So take the time. This is so important. It's way more important to lay a foundation for a solid homeschool year than it is to start super early, than it is. In fact, I would encourage you, and I've done this personally, take a break. If you've already started and you can already sense that things are kind of coming off the rails, you're kind of recycling some of the same issues that you were having the year before. Put a pause in, take a retreat. My family used to do a fall retreat most years where we would just rent a cabin. We're real close to the mountains. We would rent a cabin in the mountains. We'd go up, just us, no technology. We played, we talked, we hiked, we had a great time. But we also took time to talk about the year ahead, talk about goals, talk about what we liked and didn't like, kind of reflecting. And we put that all together in a big family outing. And David was with us, of course. It was just a great time and really set the stage for the entire year. But whether you do something big and elaborate like that, or you and your spouse just sit in your room and walk through this, take the time to look back through what has worked, what hasn't, reflect on that, and really make informed decisions as you are going into this new school year. It's still fresh. Even if you've started, it's still a fresh new year. You can still start laying a foundation for the year to go the way that you really want it to. So take this time now is a really big deal to do some evaluations. Now, for those of you who are brand new to homeschooling, I want you to still do an evaluation, still look back. What were the catalysts that made you start? What did you not like about the way that things were going in the situation your kids were in, whether they were in school or not? You still can do this same evaluation because you are still laying a foundation for what you want this year to be. So take the time to reflect on the past year so that you can create this upcoming year to be exactly how you want it to be. So that's first, really following on a part of that, which I don't want to skip over. I don't want to ever take for granted that that we all know to do this. It was worth saying. As part of doing the reflection over the past year, you're praying through that. You're asking God to illuminate what was good, what was bad. You're asking for wisdom on how you should approach things going forward. This is the time to hit your knees and really ask God to give you direction on the year ahead. I would be remiss if I didn't invite you to join us in Teach Them Diligently 365. While you're doing this, if you're not a member yet, Teach Them Diligently 365 is an incredible support system for missional homeschool moms. We will help you stay on track. We will give you access to resources that will answer any question that you may have, plus a vibrant community of homeschool moms who are doing the same thing you are, where we are talking all the time. We are, carrying each other's burdens. We are counseling one another. It is a great place. So check out Teach Them Diligently 365. I will be sure to give you a link in the show notes. But it's such a great resource. I don't believe any homeschool mom should do this without joining us there. I'm such a believer in it that I can't even overstate that. So reflecting, praying through those reflections, taking the time to really seek God's face as you go into this new year. Now, the second thing that I want you to do, which really does follow right on the heels of that, is to set very clear goals for this year. first of all, you want to make sure that your goals fall within the vision and the mission that you have for your family. David and I talk a lot about this. In fact, in our new Heart School Parenting Intensive, we're really going to dive deep in what is your vision for your family. If you're looking ahead 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, what do you want your family to look like, function like, etc.? Well, to get there, you need to set goals right now that are leading you in that direction. You don't just hop over the next 3 years to get to where that vision is. You've got to start laying the foundation now. So I want you to take the time as you're reflecting, as you're going through all of that, then you take the time to set very clear goals for this year. And those can be academic, they can be relational, they can be spiritual, they can be all the above, obviously. But really, really, what are you going for with your kids? And then I would encourage you, especially if your kids are a little bit older, and we started doing this with our kids when they were in elementary school, actually, find out what their goals are for the year. Here's why that's so important. If you start talking to your kids in terms of an end game, a goal, a strategy for the year, they're going to start from a very young age to recognize that failing to plan is planning to fail. So if you have something that you really want to achieve, you start laying the foundation for that. And this is really it's a character building exercise. It's a maturity building exercise. It's really just preparing them to be adults, which is a big part of our job. So taking the time to think through goals and to start setting those up both as a family and then as individuals is really, really powerful here at the first of the year. Then I want to encourage you at intervals throughout the year, check in, do assessments on those. How are you doing towards them? Have you forgotten all about those goals, or are you actually making progress? Those will give you great times of just kind of check-in points to make sure you're staying on track. But those goals give you something solid to shoot for. And that's a really big deal in when, again, we talk about this all the time. Your mission is to bring your kids to Jesus and to prepare them well to serve him with a foundation of faith and all of these things. These are really big, big mission. It's a big long-term goal. You need smaller goals that really stack up and show you that you're moving in the right direction to get there. And again, this is a great opportunity to spend time with each individual child and help them think through what their goals are as well. And also, I would encourage you to fill them in on what your goals are as a family, because then they understand how they fit into that structure, which gives them a real sense of belonging, a real sense of ownership. It's just a really big deal. So reflect on the past year, pray through what it's been. Number two, set clear goals. Number three, I want to encourage you to create a flexible schedule, but have some sort of a schedule. Even those of us who are have very, very full lives, have a lot going on, and may not respond greatly to a very rigid schedule. Like I talk to a lot of homeschoolers who that just doesn't really fit their lives. Even if we wanted, it doesn't really fit our lives. We have humans living there. So sometimes a very strict, rigid schedule isn't the most appropriate for any given season. But a flexible schedule with a rhythm to your day is going to give you a stability and keep you on track. Actually, I believe much better than a really rigid schedule, because it works in that flexibility to go for the hearts of your kids, take those detours, have those deep conversations, take the opportunities that are presented to you to go do something really cool. That's the flexibility of homeschooling is wonderful. But when we are so rigid in our schedule that we get panic stricken when we get off of what our planner says to do, we're really throwing that away and all the missional opportunities that come along with it. But when you create a schedule that has some flexibility built in, that has a rhythm to your day that your kids can depend on, because our kids need something that they can depend on. They need structure to their day. Every single child, every single adult, I believe, needs structure to your day. You can't just be pell-mell about it, but you can be flexible in it. So, for example, when my kids were younger, we had a rhythm to our day. We started our morning, and I've talked about this a lot. We started our morning with Bible time around the table where we would talk about what God had taught me in my devotions. They would share what God was teaching them in their devotions. That would go on during breakfast. It would go on as long as the conversation led us. Then we would move to what we lovingly refer to in our house as my fancy office, which is just the formal living room that doesn't get used. So is my fancy office. But we would go in there, we would cuddle up on the couches, and we would move into history or literature or science or all of those wonderful living subjects that we could do together, where we would just read and discuss. And so our entire mornings were spent doing very relational, very conversant, very interesting studies. That worked great for our family. We would take a break. I would fix lunch. The kids would play for a while, and then we'd come back after they had gotten some exercise, after they were fully awake, and we would do those more stair step type subjects that they needed more attention and they were doing alone, like math and grammar and spelling and some of those other things that you can't combine classes like you can with some of the living subjects. So that was a rhythm that worked really, really well for us. I didn't set timers on it because, quite frankly, we could get into a history lesson and just have a phenomenal conversation and it would go for a very long time. I didn't want to cut that off. Or we could be reading a book together and the kids loved it and I loved it and we were having such a great time that we just wanted to keep going. I didn't want to arbitrarily say no, just one chapter today, because we were enjoying that time together. We were having good conversation and we were learning so much together that was a very valuable part of my day. Plus, that worked into my goals, which were spending those time deepening relationships, getting to know my kids on a deeper level, understanding what's in your heart or what's in their heart. Because when you're having classes like that, where you have open conversation about something that's happened in history or something that happened in the book that you're reading or whatever, you get great insight into how your children think, how they learn, what's going on in their heart, what things grieve them, and how they respond to that. You're able to help them position the really bad things that have happened in history under what God's word says. And it is just an incredible time. And if you have, we have 30 minutes and this is the only block of time that we have for this, you're going to lose out on a lot of those opportunities. Whereas if you have a flexible rhythm to your day, you're going to be able to capitalize on that. And as a heart schooling parent, you want to capitalize on those times. So creating a flexible, routine-based schedule will give you such a leg up in heart schooling your kids. Next thing that I would tell you to do is to come up with a plan for your homeschool space. Now, um, that could be organizing a room, which you've probably already done if you have a room. But for those of us, and I never one time had a dedicated homeschool space in my house. Never, ever, ever. And I honestly talked to a lot of veteran homeschool moms who do have a dedicated homeschool space that they don't use because they like being together. They like, the way that their lives actually work doesn't necessarily work inside of a homeschool space. It feels too sterile to them. So for us, I had a number of different organizational systems and rhythms systems to accommodate the growing needs of my children academically, but also to not let homeschooling overtake my house. This is a really big complaint for so many is homeschool will just overtake your house. There's books and papers and materials and manipulatives and all this stuff everywhere and you cannot get away from it, and that's not healthy for anybody. So I would encourage you strongly to find a system of being able to put school away and walk away from it. Now, yes, as homeschoolers, we homeschool 24/7. We're always teaching, but it doesn't include books and it doesn't include manipulatives. And those should be out of the way so that you can really just enjoy your home and your family outside of school, the parameters of school. So a couple of things that I did through the years. And again, this changed as my kids got older. Um, but we had at one point we used a closet under my stairs for school and just kind of put everything in there. There was a short bookshelf. All the books would go on there. The materials like the pens and pencils and blah blah blah, all that stuff was in there. Um, that worked really briefly. That was not my favorite system because that tends to be like a stash spot when people are coming over, and so the school stuff would tend to get buried. So that was not my favorite system. But that was a system, having a shelf. It was in a closet. It got it out of the way. So whether we were working at the dining room table or whether we were working in the fancy office or wherever, the kids knew exactly where their homeschool stuff was. We could get it, take it back, put it away. It was fine. Um, my very favorite system, though, was I had what I called mobile offices for the kids. And those were just those hard sided, you can get them at Staples. You see a lot of them at Teach Them Diligently. They're like the little boxes on wheels, the hard plastic boxes on wheels. They have a retractable handle. I got each one of the kids one of those. They hold so much stuff. So that was their mobile office. They were responsible for putting all of their books, all of their supplies, everything in that. We kept them parked in the garage along the wall. So they would go out in the garage, get their stuff, bring it in. We would go through what we had to do for the day. And then we would put them back out in the office or in the garage. But they knew where their stuff was, and it kept it consolidated to a box in our garage. It worked really, really, really well. The other thing that I liked about that system, because my family has always traveled quite a bit. We do events, we speak, we go, to churches. We have the mission agency that we run, so we're doing church stuff with that as well. So that gave us the freedom and the flexibility to just grab their boxes or part of their boxes and maybe even consolidate all into one box, but we could take a mobile office with us. Or I get stir crazy a lot. I love to be outside, so and we have a number of state parks close to us, so those mobile offices could go to a state park really easily, and we could work out of those if we were sitting beside a lake at a picnic table or something, and then we would put everything back in the car and then go play. So just a lot of that mobile office idea was hands down my favorite organizational system as the kids were getting older. I just love that. I loved it. It was great. Those things can stack if you want them to, although not if you have little kids because it could fall on them. But just it was a great system for us, and I would highly recommend that you check into it. It's also not very expensive, and I still have two or three of those mobile offices folded up. A couple of them got broken, probably the boys. Let's just be honest, but though they last, I only bought them once. We used them through their entire schooling. It was great. So organizing, coming up with a system that is something that you and your kids can count on, a way to put school in a box and put it away so that it doesn't get into every other area, like the physical stuff of it doesn't get into every area of your home so that everybody's frustrated. So often I hear about friction in families because dad will come home from work and there's all this chaos and all this clutter and all this stuff, and people feel so trapped by it all. I'm telling you, there are strategies that can make you not trapped by that clutter and that chaos. And I urge you to take the time before you get too deep into school to figure out a strategy that will work for you. I'm going to talk more specific about some different strategies and stuff. That'll be our next week's podcast. But I wanted to give you some big ideas to think about this week. So organizing your space is a really big deal. The next thing I want to encourage you is to start preparing for the unexpected. I never had a single homeschool year that went as I thought it would. You're a family first and foremost, and stuff comes up. People get sick, or opportunities arise, or you end up moving, or there's this massive weather system and you want to study it or something. Stuff comes up. So first of all, build in enough margin into your lesson plans to allow you to deal with unexpected things, but also come up with a plan for the unexpected things when you just cannot you can't do school as normal. And it could be this. I did a lot of this. In fact, I have a Dropbox full of just free resources that I picked up through the years, so that if I needed to, I could drop everything and do a unit study, or I could drop everything and pick up something out of that Dropbox that I could plug in and we could all do it together and we'd be learning and growing. But it would fill in those gaps if there was just something going on that made doing school the normal way really hard to impossible. In our lives, that happened a lot in the spring around our events. We would get so busy packing tote bags or preparing for the events, that we really did have to do a slightly different version of school during those times. And so I would prepare in advance so that we could take advantage of those moments and not feel like we were losing control during those moments. So just just a little forethought and a little bit of planning for, I've got this like swipe file of stuff that we can do when things go off the rails is huge. And sometimes, honestly, it doesn't take circumstances to make things go off the rails. Sometimes it's going to be, I'm bored of this. I need a break. So if I need a break as a homeschool mom, I'm going to assume the kids do too. Let's do something different. And we did a lot of that through the years too. So have those in advance so that you're ready to go when those little curveballs come your way. Um, the next thing that I would encourage you is um, to take care of yourself. We talk a lot about this in 365. If as a homeschool mom or dad, you are not taking care of yourself, you are not physically nurturing yourself, spiritually walking with God, nurturing your soul, emotionally tending to your needs, and making sure that you are staying stable in all of those ways, it's going to be really, really hard for you to pour out and invest in your kids effectively. So get out of your mind that taking care of yourself is a selfish endeavor. You have one body, you have one soul, and you have all of these children who are counting on you to be whole for them. So taking the time to rest, to exercise, to read and pray, and getting God's word, and all of these things is not selfish at all. It is actually an act of service for your husband, your wife, your children. This is a really big deal. So take the time as you're evaluating all of these things and you're looking ahead, work in time to take care of yourself. It's a really big deal. And then the last thing that I want to talk about this week is just getting connected. We as believers, as humans, but especially as believers, we are not called to walk alone. We are called to live in community. God put us in church bodies. He put us in community with other believers. That's a really big deal. Your children need it, but you as a homeschool mom need it. A homeschool dad need it. As couples, you need it. So find ways to get connected. Again, I cannot not tell you, I cannot not. I must tell you again, just I urge you to join us in 365. That is a phenomenal community. And we are working right now on building local groupings. We have such a huge group of members already that if you look at a map, we are almost blanketing the US. So we're really hoping to start doing more with local get-togethers. We already do retreats. We get people together physically because that's so important. And then through the year, there is just great opportunities for getting online and chatting, getting in the app and chatting. We have the Teach Them Diligently app offers you really social media without the black holes and the drama and all of that. It just gives you a great place to share something fun or ask a question or just ask for prayer or pray for someone else. And it's just a really uplifting place. But whatever community looks like for you, I urge you to plug in. No one is created to be an island. And this, I'm going to actually gonna I'm gonna get a little bit preachy here. I am an introvert by nature. The Lord has molded me into something that I would have never imagined. I love being with people now, and that is just an act of God because He called me to do this. But when we first started Teach Them Diligently, I would literally go hide under a tablecloth for a little while because I would be so overwhelmed with everything that was going on. But despite the fact that I am an introvert by nature, the fact that God has called me to love people and to get involved in their lives overrides that natural tendency. And by His grace, He allows me now to really walk outside of the restrictions of what I would have thought my natural tendencies would have brought, where I'm fine on my own. I don't like talking to people, whatever it is. So if you are more introverted, and you're not going to change that. I still go and recharge and all of that stuff, but I urge you to understand that even as an introvert, you are not called to walk alone, and Satan loves nothing more than when you try to, because you are easy pickings when you do. So get out there and make good, deep connections, godly connections. You need it. Your marriage needs it. Your children need it. God created you to live in community that way. So stay connected. That is so very important this year. And really, it's so easy for the kids. There are so many opportunities for socialization for the kids. I don't worry about that at all. But what I do worry about is that moms and dads stay connected as well, because I believe that Satan is destroying marriages because so many people are trying to do life alone, and we were not created to do it that way. So there's a lot of chinks in our armor. So we are really out of time today, but I wanted to leave you with those ideas as you're getting started. First of all, reflect on the past year, look back at what worked, what didn't, prayerfully ask God to lead you. Set clear goals that meet up with your mission and your vision. Start thinking ahead and actually putting structure in to get where you want to go. Bring your kids in on those discussions. It will be so very helpful. Create a flexible routine or schedule that helps you do what God has called you to do, but gives you the margin to also be so missional. Well, which is what God calls you to do, but to take the detours, to be missional and not be driven by a lesson plan so much. Organize your school stuff, your space, however you need to make sure that you can put it away, that you can live your life without seeing manipulatives all the time. And then prepare for the unexpected. Have yourself a little swipe file of great resources that you can refer to. And then finally, stay connected. I really do believe that all of those things will help you have a phenomenal homeschool year. And I'm very, very excited for you as you start out this year. So, again, join us in Teach Them Diligently 365. There is no greater place on the internet for a Christian homeschool mom to be. I promise you that. Number two, uh, uh, join us at one of our retreats if you are a member. That is a great way to stay connected. And then join us next week on the podcast, as I'm going to be giving you some very specific ideas about starting this new homeschool year that I think will be really helpful for you too. So that's where we're going next week. I want to remind you about Word of Life. Check those out, especially if your kids are getting a little bit older. WOL.org. Word of Life is a great organization. I believe it'll be a great blessing to your family. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.